Hello. Here's a problem worth struggling with now to save you time and money in the future. So what happens right now if all of your email, all your computers, all the servers, all the websites, everything, Facebook, everything out there online right now went down today? What would you do? What would your steps be? And of course, it would be to find an IT person for most people because they don't already have one. So today we're going to go through that so you can save time and money in the future, being prepared for the worst case scenario. So with IT people and small businesses, there's a big disconnect, and it can really cause a lot of problems in the hiring process to see if somebody's qualified or not. So in this video, we're going to walk you through two different mindsets when you're hiring somebody. The first is the wizard. So a wizard is going to throw a bunch of tricks in front of you, a bunch of jargon that you're going to have no idea about at all. You're just going to blindly accept, which is hard to do because you don't understand it and they know they're confusing you. So they can just throw a bunch of words and promises out there, promise you the world because you're not technical enough to understand it. So instead of a wizard, we want the doctor. So the doctor is just like a doctor. It has all the knowledge and he explains it to you in simple terms so that you can understand, but he still has a better understanding of it than you, or you wouldn't need him, right? But he has a better understanding and he translates that into words that you personally can understand and interpret. So the doctor is what you're looking for, while the wizard is just trying to trick you and get your business. Well, they're both trying to get your business, of course, but you want to see who's actually qualified when you're trying to hire an individual. So we're going to go through that. We're going to go through a bunch of psychological recruiting practices and some misconceptions as well, and we'll take you through the road. Before we get into the process of the hiring, we need to first understand why we're hiring and what we really need from an individual or an organization. So there are really three different tiers, and I'll show you how to understand which one you need. First, there's in-house. So this is a IT professional that you employ, only priority is you, and it's really expensive, around $100,000 a year. But if IT is crucial for your business and your business is getting bigger and bigger, this is definitely the route to go. Now, if you're more of a mid or small size business, there is managed services like restaurants, other single location or maybe even multiple location businesses could use this for if their Wi-Fi is down, if their ticket system's not working. There's a lot of different things that can go down. If you think of anything technology-wise that your company is using, the managed person can come in and help. You just have to pay like a monthly subscription. Most people need a managed. And then, of course, if you don't have any of these, there's on-demand. So it's more of the EMS. They take a little bit longer and they're more expensive, of course, because these guys are getting paid monthly and they just take calls when they can get them. So a on-demand person typically is also newer because they haven't established themselves like a managed professional, but some managed professionals also do on-demand work. It's really important to understand your needs. Not one of these is perfect, right? This one's obviously the most expensive and you're going to get the most out of it, but these other two have a real use case as well. So in-house, managed, and on-demand. And now let's go into the rest of the video. So now let's look at the most important skill to vet for, to look for in somebody who claims to be an IT professional. Now we already touched on it with the wizard and doctor analogy, but to get more in depth, we want somebody who doesn't just talk jargon, that can actually explain the concepts they're talking about. Not only that, they should be able to explain it in terms you can understand. They should be able to create a list of things to do if something happens, so have like a plan when something happens. Normally, if somebody is less knowledgeable, they can't create a plan. They'll say, oh, well, when that happens, I'll figure out what to do. This can take longer. Can cost you a lot of money, especially if they're hourly. And a lot of professionals have already done this before, so they can name exactly what they've done. Now, you can't really get a grasp of all the tech analysis stuff right before you go through an interview. You're not a tech person right now, and that's completely okay. Instead, you need to test them through your lack of knowledge on the subject and get them to explain it to you in basic terms. If they can't do that, they probably don't know it either. So instead of getting somebody who is completely rid of jargon, instead of doing that, we want somebody who has a clear understanding and can use generalizable terms. So basic terms. And once again, if they can't do that, then they probably don't have a great understanding of the subject in general. So jargon is for the wizard, for somebody who doesn't really know what they're talking about. In basic terms is for the doctor. Now, this is really important, and through all the guides that I looked for, it says that this is the most important skill of all when they were vetting an IT professional. Because once again, if they can't explain it, how do you know if they know it? And they can throw a bunch of jargon at you to make you feel impressed and that they're really tech smart, but you shouldn't be judging that. You should be judging if they're tech literate, not tech smart. It's okay if they know all the new things. If they can't explain it, then they can't really apply it. Now let's move on to the vetting process itself. So vetting is no different between IT and normal vetting, other than before in the hiring process, where you don't really understand the technical skills, so you have to apply that into gauging if they can, I don't want to say dumb down, but simplify the situation so that you can understand it, while having no knowledge in it, of course. That's what you're hiring them for. So we want 3 different components that all work together in the vetting process as a whole. So we want to use a scenario to see if they can actually apply the knowledge. We want to keep it consistent across everybody so we can evaluate it later. And that rolls into having the same questions for everybody. You should treat everybody exactly equal or as much as you can, just like we do in research, to keep results consistent and to be as mathematical and analytical as we can with the hiring process. You shouldn't really go off fields because some people can elicit confidence without actually being competent. A lot of people don't even lie to you. They think they're competent, but aren't really. You see that in a lot of different situations. And then also you can use a paid trial. So you can have a problem or networking or some other small situation that you'll pay them for after you've vetted them and narrowed down the list to make sure that they can actually do it and to establish a relationship with them as well. So you can see their reaction time, you can see how well they do the job, how fast they do the job, all those different things in the small paid trial can see if they're actually the right fit for you or if they just talk a really good game. So those 3 in combination or really make a vetting process perfect and special. All right, now let's talk about some really important characteristics with a person that you're gonna have holding the keys to your castle. They're gonna have all the passwords, all the security credentials, everything they can manage, they can take down, they can change, they can delete, they can really do anything. And trust me, it happens. Corporate espionage, small business espionage, if somebody's upset with you and they want to get back at you, and they can, trust me, they will. So you want to make sure that this person is very trustworthy. So that's where we go into security. Security is about trust. Trust is about security. If you can't trust them, don't hire them. If you don't have any reviews, any references, anything like that, even if they're the smartest person in the world, there's probably a reason why they don't have any references, and there's no small business that you can call and visit. They might have burned bridges before, and you don't want to be one of those bridges. So next you got the documentation. So the documentation goes into continuity, or what happens if that person gets sick, leaves, retires, finds a new job, you have to fire them. If you don't have a good plan in place, and if they haven't documented things, that new person has to start all over most of the time. Most of the time, if you're having someone program something, it can be completely unreadable if they're not documenting it correctly. If you're an IT professional who has a process and you get fired, and if you don't hand that process over, that customer can really struggle. So going back to the doctor analogy, it's like a doctor that has everything in their head. They have no proof of anything they did, and if they retired, like I said before, any of those things, if they just went away, you would have no idea about all your records because there were none. He just kept them all in his head. Now, most doctors aren't like this, and if they are, probably leave them. Now, the IT doctor should have everything documented, what they did, why they did it, what subscription, what account, what password, all this stuff, so that you can change it in the future, or somebody you pay can change it as well. If you don't have this, then anybody that goes into this, no matter how knowledgeable, will have almost no understanding, as the field is so different and there are so many possibilities out there. All right, now let's move on to the actual contract you have with the individual. Now, this will really be for those managed and on-demand services. The SLA, or Service License Agreement, or contract for better terms, will not apply to in-house because you're not really going to have a contract with them. They're going to be your employee most of the time. But it's really important to understand two separate concepts with these contracts. So there are these two different terms, response and resolution. There's a response time. How fast can I answer the phone call? How fast will the doctor pick up if I call them? Now, the phone call might not have a resolution at all. They might not even have any actions other than picking up that phone. Now, the resolution time is when, or the target resolution time for better terms, is how fast they are trying to get it done. Will they work on it day one, or will they wait a week while you're continually calling them and they'll respond, but they won't find a resolution for you? Now, this is not always guaranteed, as there's a lot of different problems that can happen, but it really shows if the person's committed or not, and if they really will uphold the SLA. So a big misconception with all of these contracts is just like the lawyer phenomenon. So if a cop asks you, do you need a lawyer? Because they insinuate that it will make you look guilty. It doesn't. It makes you look more prepared. It's not the absence of trust, but the upholding of trust if it breaks. Of course, this IT professional is someone completely new, or even if you do know them, how well do you know them? And people change all the time. So contracts are really important to have for that agreement, and it also can help you come to a better understanding on what their expectations and yours is as well. So with the doctor analogy, answer the phone or treat you. And it's the same with your IT, same with your IT health, and you really want somebody who can already have an SLA or is really easy to work with to make that contract. You can also hire a lawyer to go over it. Sometimes it's a little bit overkill because these contracts are more plain language, but you have to watch out for generalizable information. So if I say, oh, I do everything, what that really means for contracts is that I do nothing, that I can't guarantee one single thing that I uphold. It's too general. This is also the same with fastest or I will try my best. Things like that are not upholded at all in contracts because they're not a defined time. They're not 1 hour, they're not 1 day, they're not within a couple business hours. Things like that can really make or break a contract and if it's upholded or not. Another important thing with the contract is an exit clause. So when they leave, when you leave, when something else happens entirely, what happens? When the contract ends, do you get paid more? Do they get paid more? Why? How? And how do you transfer all of that documentation, all of that information to the next person so that you have all of the work saved and nobody has to redo all of that work, saving you quite a bit of hours in total. So again, SLA, the difference between response and resolution, and it should have both times inside of the contract. So now we're going to get into some easily debunked myths with hiring an IT professional. Some people say that, oh, my nephew knows all this IT stuff, they can do it for me. Sometimes the cheapest solution isn't the best, especially if you need someone with an ongoing basis. If that nephew ever vanishes, if he doesn't want to work with you anymore, with the only password or loses it, that can be really expensive for you in the long run. So not only that, but some other people will throw certifications at you. Now that's important to have because it does show that, they have knowledge, but it's only a test. You still have to go through the whole process to see if they really can apply the information. Sure, they may know it and be able to recall it on some certification, even if it's backed by somebody like Microsoft or Google, or some even accredited companies or state legislators. It's really important to understand that they can actually do the job with having the certification. What year is it from? And it's not the only thing. Sometimes certifications can help broaden information, but can they actually apply it? That is the most important step there ever is. So now we need to understand what a managed IT professional is. So a managed IT professional is not just some pricey monthly on-call person that just costs money month to month that you never use. If that is the case, don't have one. Have the on demand. But for most people, when they use them, they use them. When they have that monthly subscription, they call them and say something's down and trying to just not fix it themselves. There's somebody who will be dedicated to you and who will respond way faster than that on demand, and most of the time way cheaper as well. So those misconceptions can really lead people astray when trying to hire somebody, and they're important things to consider. So now let's go through a quick recap of everything. So first step is to figure out what model you need. What are your needs and who do you look for to find them? In-house, most expensive, most in-depth, and most needed for really large companies that can spend the money on it. Managed, monthly subscription, somebody comes to your house, fixes things. On demand, when you really don't have any issues, when you're really small, and when you can pay those higher rates because you don't have as much need for it. Again, it's just like a subscription service with managed, and then a one-time payment on demand. But it is hourly, of course, for the on-demand. And managed, sometimes it's an additional charge if they go over a certain amount of hours. And then after that, you have to understand if the person is just spouting a bunch of jargon or is using basic plain knowledge that they can convert. If they can't convert it, they're probably either taking you on a ride or don't really understand it themselves, right? If they can't convert it, how do they do it with themselves? So in the vetting process, while you're trying to figure all this stuff out, is using the same scenario to see if they can actually apply the information, using the same questions to see if they are consistent, to see the consistency between different people so you can actually judge them, keep it as scientific as you can, and then the page trial so you're not locked into anything, so you can try it. If they don't do it right, you can just fire them. If you're not happy with them, you could just not hire them instead of having to fire them, actually. So after you do all that, there are some other important characteristics to keep in mind. Ask them about security. What do? Do they just hold the password? Do you have access to that password as well? All of this information is really important because if somebody runs away and you don't have any trust in them, with all of this information, they can do a lot of damage. So if you don't trust them, don't hire them. It's simple as that. Trust is everything when it comes to IT. And then the documentation is for continuity. Can somebody else right after pick it up? Do you have all those passwords? Do you have all that connections? All of the stuff that somebody would have to redo if they don't have good documentation at all. And then lastly, the contract. It's not that you don't trust the person, but that you want to make sure that you have written information about what you expect and what they expect, and you come to an agreement. Of course, you can use it if something bad happens. Probably won't. Most of the time it doesn't. Most of the time it ends up well. But don't expect that to happen. It's just like a prenup to a marriage. You're getting married to your IT person, not actually, but with a relationship, with a business. The response and resolution times are completely different things. Don't mix them up. It's really important to separate them and to have both of them in the SLA, or the Service License Agreement. All right. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, shoot me an email. It's in the description. There's also more information out there about who I am, more learning content. I have a playlist now. I just created it with all the different tech information. And if you want to go more into the techie side or the more the psychology side behind it, behind all those phenomenon, I have a bunch of more information as well on my website. Once again, thank you for watching, and I hope you learned something today.